Honestly, a little disappointing. You know? You know what I'm saying? Just seems that a lot of things have catastrophic outcomes where, like, you know, two adepts do too much damage and you're just like, oh, okay, I guess the person who did the damage wins. Super cool, super cool. It looks like I literally have Classic from the last time he was on a barcode, so it's super convenient for me. Okay, that's a little too small, isn't it? Okay. In the top left as the red Protoss, it's, I don't know. Could be anyone. Use your imagination. Could be stats. Could be hero. I don't know. In the bottom right as the blue Protoss, it is Classic. I got that right? Yeah, Classic is the blue player. Okay, so just a ladder game, I assume. Sometimes these Korean players, when they stream, they give out their replays to people who donate specifically. Not so much people who, like, subscribe, but just people to donate. And they have, like, a person who's moderately, you know, good at English, send them out in emails. I got one from Innovation one time, but apparently I think Classic does it often enough as well. So it's always really cool to see such high-level games that you probably haven't seen unless you're up early enough or up late enough, wherever you are, I guess, to actually watch the streams of the Korean players. That's one of the worst things about not getting up early for me is that, like, the streams I enjoy the most are probably still the Korean player streams, yet I wake up at like 10 and they're kind of finishing or they're already done. Feels bad. Anyways, we got a regular opener from both sides. Pylon in the far left corner, trying to kind of fake and freak the red Protoss out here as he's counting pylons. And it's like, where is it? Well, a lot of people have been throwing out pylons over here, for instance, and just using it as adept warp-ins, but not actually using it for proxy. But Classic just actually puts it in the far left corner, which means that there's also a potential to hide something even more than usual. I mean, if you hide it back here, it's pretty difficult to find, but maybe an adept's shade gets through that you're not paying attention to. Way over here, probably not going to figure it out, especially if they think there's no pylon over there. So we do have the red Protoss searching around maybe a little bit here. We see his shift clicking going down, so he wants to find the pylon. He wants to make sure that it's not actually being used for, like, a Stargate, for instance, which is probably the most common one to do. But he's just in the dark. Didn't even see this pylon go down, which you know would have been the third, and just because of the way that Protoss have to open in this matchup, you would know would be the third one, even if you hadn't seen the second one. Actually, speaking of a number of pylons, another one finished on this side of the map. Wanted to see what popped out of the gateways, but also being a bit of a nuisance as the adepts, even if they didn't pop out on that side, still might have wanted to stick around to actually tear it down so they don't get across the map nearly as fast. Classic's adepts are already across the map, and I guess they were waiting to shade in. They wanted to see the army move out, so they reposition themselves. Here come the adepts of the red player for the block, and they get it. I mean, plus the pro block too. But the best thing about that is that the adepts of the red player got the first shot. Unfortunately, still going to be losing one adept. Not much you can do about that, I guess. And Classic will just have a very injured one for later on. Both going for blink here as they expand. So even though this is a little... I mean, it looked like it was going to be a lot scarier. Like, hey, if you're putting it down there, if you're really putting this much effort into hiding your tech, are you going to go into a Dark Shrine or something? Nope. A Dark Shrine might have actually done fairly well. Would have been one of those, like, very clutch observer timings. You know, if you had gone for an Immortal first, could have been a problem. But not DTs. Just Blink versus Blink. Which is actually a really big change-up, I would say, from what you usually see. I was just kind of complaining about Korean PvP. We have had a resurgence of Adept all-ins, actually, in most matchups. They seem to have made their way back. Of course, I'm a little biased, and I'm specifically thinking of all the poor Terrans who were like, what the hell? Like, what are Resident Glaives coming back here? But it's been happening a lot in PvP, too. This Adept could actually get in and get a scout. I mean, you already have some information from the Nexus, but seeing the gateway count, seeing, you know, the Twilight Council actually done before the robo and researching something, this early, I would go ahead and just assume they're assuming Blink. Those Adept all-ins I was talking about in this matchup do happen a little bit later. But I'm not doing these, so like I could be wrong. I just know like one PvP adept all-in particular, and I think the Resonant Glaives happens a little bit later. Actually opens up like a very standard defensive, Nexus and a Robo. But this wasn't it, Again, the Twilight Council was seen as being done first, and I think he's also, well, definitely now seeing how many Stalkers his opponent has, so Classic should know exactly what's going on here. He did just use Blink to get over here, so he doesn't actually have one that's too aggressive, but definitely injuring 2 Stalkers from the get-go, and he had a few more to begin with since the reinforcements weren't quite caught up. Ends up going, actually kind of whatever, right? I won't say it goes really in favor of either person. The Fair's advantage, even with warp-ins, you say you get a warp prism, whatever, the Fair's advantage still exists in PvP, and case in point, the Immortal had just gotten started, in a kind of bit of an emergency, I guess, reaction there, and it was canceled as you realized they didn't need it. But also probe pulls and maybe a shield batter or something like that. So defensively, he would have been fine, even with the injured Stalkers, what I'm getting at. And just continuing to warp in Stalkers. If you're going to bother to get Blink, which really isn't a terrible upgrade, it's just one that very often in PvP you see kind of just, it's only ever gotten if you know the person's going into Phoenix. And then it's a really big bother. They do the old, like, I'm going to Phoenix, and then they back it up with a bunch of Immortals, and you got to try and find your way through there and get a lead somehow. That's actually one of the more classic ways, no pun intended, of watching PvP from like 1 or 2 years ago, but it's definitely a different beast now. It's just, we're actually getting to see it over again. Blink Micro, going to be probably matched between the two. We're gonna go ahead and assume that this red barcode actually is someone really good, and apparently Bally knows who it is. It is Creator, and his PvP is pretty solid. So, but even without that knowledge, like we're assuming that they're gonna be really good. I guess I can go ahead and try and. Whoopsie daisy. Nope. Come on. You wanna move it all? It's too small to move it. Not a conundrum. There we go. It really bothers me they're both different fonts, but whatever. So the Blink opener has gotten no one too far ahead. I guess Blink can also, like, not just be useful against the Stargate openers like I was talking about, but can also give you some map control if the other person isn't going Blink, or you win the Blink Stalker war kind of early on, which again, neither of them really have. Creator did stop making Stalkers in exchange for an Immortal or two, which is gonna definitely pack a punch, while getting the charge alongside Classic, but already with that +1, so now going into +2. The lead into the mid-game does feel favorable for our Red Protoss, for Creator, as he gets the upgrade faster and starts adding in Immortals faster. You don't really want to get too many Immortals, and if Classic never gets any Immortals, like, I think that's okay, but if you do get that chance to go ahead and shift-click the Immortal on the Stalkers, or just gets in range somehow during a battle, boy, will they just go ahead and obliterate them, right? Up against Chargelets, it might be a different story, but yeah, it's definitely a good thing to get, and he's going to go up to at least 3, and then I expect him to stop after that, and then just put all of his gas into the Archons, and they both get Templar Archives. A lot of scouting going on here. Again, neither one of them really getting that early game advantage with the Stalkers. Arguably, Classic got the better end, but he also invested a little bit more into them, so it's not really notable. Actually, going for an attack is very interesting. I mean, Creator was also planning on poking around here, but he doesn't have a War Prism, so this is automatically a little less invested. No sentries as well, but it finds an open natural, and probes will definitely die here. He could recall out, or just, well, once he sees Classic recalling, he'll just go ahead and get out. But Classic actually recalled maybe too few units, but Creator not paying attention, not blinking out of the damage here because he's suddenly being attacked by a bunch of Stalkers. This is getting a little weird. By a little, I mean like really weird. These Stalkers aren't too bad, but they're not going to be reinforced, and actually Chargelet's coming in with the Archon. There we go. Good focus fire on the Archon to take him down, but Chargelet's going to be quite the bother if he's not 100% paying attention, and he has this whole thing to deal with. His third Nexus goes down. He doesn't lose as many probes, it looks like, but they're both still very even. Certainly not like 58. You're going to want a third Nexus to actually be mining from, so Classic does come out ahead. By the way, now that I know the Red Protoss is Creator, it's getting really difficult to say the right C name when they both have barcodes. Because I don't see the nameplates I put up like you guys do. I still just see barcodes, and I'm like, Always trying to not trip myself up by saying the wrong name for the wrong color, but oh boy. Oh lordy. Oh lordy. Why did Classic get his cool name in that name in the cool font? Because that's what it was from X tournaments ago, I don't know. I could change it, but the action's really picking up, so I shan't. +2 is done for Creator, but his soccer count has really been just murdered. It also is really, really weak here, so if he does blink forward, take out like a Warp Prism, for instance, which wouldn't really do very much because he's the one pushing into his opponent, it just wouldn't look very pretty. So I'm actually going to go ahead and just discount those 5 stalkers. Is the rest of the army good enough here? He's hitting, unfortunately, as +2 finished for Classic. He's also going upper ramp, defender's advantage here. We have an attack on the other side that is just making sure no probes are able to mine from the third base, and Creator is pretty all in, but it is actually going to work. We have a Hallucinated Archon from Classic happening out here. He did start to add on some Immortals. One already went down, but another one reinforcing might just do the trick here. They pack a punch against those Archons, which are being microed with the Warp Prism. Classic's Warp Prism had to be recalled, and as such was not helping on the micro front. So Mott actually might be the big difference here. As Creator takes an army supply lead, how is Defender's Advantage going to kick in? Probes are being pulled. Certainly, Classic can lose a couple, and he certainly is. 10 go down pretty much instantly. 3 Immortals left over, but most of their shields have been popped. Nothing but the Warp Prism micro right now, and that was a Hallucinated Archon anyways. Wasn't actually that helpful. The Warp Prism micro of Classic, though, also pretty good. He needs those extra Zealot Warpings. He needs to take down the Immortal, but he's actually focus firing the weak Immortal. Oh my god, that actually was so damn close. I can't believe Creator actually did that there. He pushed in up into his opponent with equal upgrades.